Hello and welcome, everyone. Faisal here. In this video, we'll go over how to export an Illustrator design file for printing or for the print shop in the correct way. I'll explain 3 different methods to export the design file. But before I start the walkthrough, for those who were asking about my Instagram account to contact me, I'll leave the link to my account in the video description, and I'll respond to your questions or any inquiries you have about anything related to design file in general. Okay, let's get started with the walkthrough now. I've finished my design file, and I've been asked to export it for the print shop or to send it for printing so it can be printed. Okay, let's say, for example, that this is a brochure, a flyer, or a poster that needs to be printed. And this method, of course, works for anything you want to export for printing, whether it's a card, a book, a magazine, or anything else related to printing. So now I have the design file finished, or we've completed working on it, and I want to export it. Let's look at the first method. Okay, the first method, and honestly, it's the one I prefer, is PDF. But how do you export a PDF for printing the right way? Let's check it out together. My design file consists of images, text, a background, and colors. Let's see how we can believe him. Okay, so the very first step I prefer, or rather, the correct way, is to outline the font. That means you remove the font dependency, because if someone opens the PDF design file in Illustrator, they might need to access it. So it's better to convert the text to outlines before you make the PDF. So you can go to Select. Actually, you need to go to Type and then choose Create Outlines, or you can use the shortcut command plus Shift plus O, or Control plus Shift plus O for those who are using Windows. Okay, by clicking Create Outlines, I'll be completely done with the font issue, or any other font-related problems. Okay, now I'll do Save As, alright. I want to do a Save As for my design file. Okay, let's say I want to export it to the desktop, for example. Okay, let's name it PDF1. And then I go here to Format and choose PDF. But I'm not done yet because there are still some settings inside that I need to adjust. We clicked OK, and now I have multiple options or choices for the PDF. I prefer the best one, which is high quality print or quality. But I personally prefer the one at the top because it's called high quality print. It gives you better images. This one has high resolution and gives you colors in a suitable way. Basically, it's the best option for printing. So let's talk high quality print now. There's something very important that I've mentioned before in my videos, which is the topic of the bleed. For example, on my page here, you can see the red line. This red line that you see here is known as the bleed for the cutting process during printing, which essentially gives you a little extra space on the image, about 1 or 2 millimeters, depending on what the print shop uses, so that when they cut the paper, you don't end up with any white showing on the edge of the poster or the flyer. This extra margin is very important because it ensures that the final printed product looks clean and professional without any unintended white borders appearing along the edges, which can sometimes happen if the cut isn't perfectly aligned. Okay, so I go here to Use Document Bleed Settings. If I select Use Document Bleed Settings, it will use the bleed that you've chosen here, or the bleed that you've set up in your design file. Or, if you want, you can choose it yourself. Yeah, let's say, for example, 2 millimeters or 1 millimeter, whatever works for you. But I prefer that you just choose Use Document Bleed Settings and that's it. Okay, we're done with that topic. And now here, I always have the PDF version, that is, let's say, the standard one used in printing or in editing programs like Preps or InDesign. So you can, if you want, increase it. I mean, if you're using, for example, if you're using more advanced features in the program or something. But I always prefer to keep it as the program's own. I just save it like this. Okay, now it's doing the save process for the design file. Let's check it out together. So now I've done, let's say, the first method or the correct way to export. The design file for printing as a PDF or exporting the PDF. And I always prefer this method. Now, let's talk about another method. The second way to export an Illustrator design file for printing is based on sending the design file itself, meaning you send the Illustrator OpenDesign file or source design file. What I mean is, sometimes I notice that people at the print shop or printing house ask me for this. They want your print design file to be an Illustrator format because they might need to make some adjustments, like for the colors or depending on the printing machines. Maybe you want to send it to a specific person so they can handle the PDF export at the end, or something like that. So this method depends on you exporting an OpenDesign file or a design file with the links. That means including the images and the fonts. Or if you don't want to include the fonts, you can convert them to outlines. Let's see together how I do this by going to File. Here, I go down to something called Package. I select Package. This means I want it to create a folder for me and put all the images, fonts, and everything I used in the design file inside it. Even if you're working on a book, a magazine, or a brochure with 100 images or more. It gathers everything for you in a great and organized way in a folder, and it automatically names it links. Let's take a look together. I click on Package here. Alright, now here I have the beginning of folder name. This means, what do you want to name it? The folder that it's going to create for you, let's call it Print together. We named it Print. Here it asks you where you want to save this design file or where you want the saving process to happen, so you choose whatever you want. I'm saving it on my desktop in the folder I created. Here I click Choose. Let's just rename it to Print because it took the design file name again. Okay, and I click Package, not Save. It's called Package. Let's check now. Let's go to the desktop. After it finishes packaging, we'll see how it saved it for me or how it created its folder. Let's take a look at the package. Now, what it does is it gathers the image or images and the font and puts them all together in a single folder. Okay, now it's finished exporting the package, or it created a folder for me and put the images, the Illustrator design file, and the font I used in my document inside it. Let's go together and check. I'm now on my desktop. I want to open this folder. I'll find that it created the folder we talked about, which is called Print. Let's open this folder and see what's inside. Okay, now the first thing it gives you is a report about the color name, making sure the colors used are CMYK and the artboard dimensions, that is, the size of the artboard. But honestly, not many people really look at this, so you can just keep it for yourself, or send it to the print shop, or even delete it. There's no problem either way. Okay, now it saved the Illustrator design file for me, but what else did it save along with the Illustrator design file? It created a folder for the fonts and a folder for the links being the images. I'm only using one image in this tutorial, but if you have a bunch of images, no matter how many, it will gather them all inside this folder. And here, I have the design file that the person will open or use after we're done with this work. So let's open it and double check one more time. Alright, this is the design file that will be sent to print. And if you're working on a recent version of Illustrator, you can save it for compatibility purposes so that it opens on any older version of the software, meaning you just manually replace the specific design file inside the destination folder. That was the second method for exporting Illustrator design files or an Illustrator design file for printing in the proper way. Okay, now let's move on to the third method. And that means you send the Illustrator design file, meaning you embed the images, and you outline the fonts. I prefer this method because first of all, the size of Illustrator. Your design file size is getting too big. It's also not very reliable when it comes to printing. It's not very reliable if they want to have control, so the method goes like this. I select the image with the white arrow, or whatever images I have, then I go to Link in the Window menu. And here, if I have more than one image, they'll all show up for me in the link panel. And I can select all of them, Then I click on these lines. Let's click together and see what options it gives me. Okay, now I go here to something called Embed. I summarize. So if you have a group of images, you select Embed. Alright, now here it tells you that because there are layers, it says Layers Object. So if you want to keep them as objects, or you can choose Flatten, which merges the layers for you. I prefer to flatten them. Always keep it flattened so you avoid dealing with layers or Photoshop issues, and it becomes just a single piece for you. On Illustrator. Okay, now I have the image here. What does that mean? It means the image is no longer linked to Photoshop. Remember earlier when we did packaging and linking so that when you open the design file on another computer, the links are there for the images? Now, the image is just like a square in Illustrator, so you can open it. So you save the design file. Let's say as a single design file without any links or fonts. Okay, so that was what we did with the image. Now, I want to create outlines for the font, just like before. So, like in the first method, I go to Type and Create Outlines. Now, my design file has no fonts and no images left in it. Anyone can open it on their computer as an Illustrator design file. So, if you do save as, alright, and we save it here. Here I have the name, for example, 51 or 52. Okay, I explained this in a video that's already on the channel. It's about how you can export a print design file that's compatible with all versions of Illustrator, whether it's Illustrator 15, 17, 18, 19, or any version. The old print shop versions work on CS6, CS. CS6, sorry, ha ha ha. Or CS5, or those versions that came out with CS5. I remember it was released around 2010, and actually, there are still print shops that work in this way. Personally, I don't recommend having your Illustrator design file in 2020 and then saving it as CS5, but we have to go with whatever they request. Of course, here legacy means that you're exporting it for all versions of CC. And I always recommend that if, for example, you're working on the latest version of Illustrator, someone else might not have the same version as you, like CC21 or CC20, so you should use Legacy so it can open on any version. Versions of Illustrator, I mean Illustrator versions, and I'm setting it now, okay? Here I have it. Now it's saving. Now we'll see that once it's done saving, the Illustrator design file has become, or the Illustrator design file size has gotten large. For example, if before you did embed or fonts, or embed or create outlines for the font, its size was maybe 5 megabytes. Now you might find it's 500 megabytes. You might find it's 200 megabytes or 100 megabytes. Because the image is now included. The image is now counted as part of the Illustrator design file or is linked to Illustrator. It's no longer linked to Photoshop. The image itself is now inside the Illustrator program. Here, for example, it's saving. It's reached 30%. Let's just wait until it finishes saving. Then we'll see how big the design file is, or we'll open it and see that you don't need links or fonts anymore. Okay, I'm at 100% now. Now I'll go to my desktop here. I'll go to the folder I created for this lesson. It was called 5.2. You see, that one was the size with the links. Let me check here. The package we made was 65 megabytes. After we embedded the image and the font, the size became 193 megabytes. Let's open it and make sure of the design file, because you should always check your design file. I mean, that final look is always very important before you send it to print or to the print shop. How do I know if the image is embedded? When I click on it, it won't show me, usually there's a blue X mark indicating that the image is linked to Photoshop. You could embed it, but that's another topic. But now, the image is embedded, so it opens on any computer. The fonts have been converted to curves, to outlines, just like this. It will open on any computer, whether it's at the print shop or for anyone you send it to. Okay, so we've explained 3 methods. The first one is the PDF method, which I always prefer, and then there's the package method. This means, in case someone asks you for the open design file or the source design file, so you can send them the links and the fonts that were used. And the third method was the one we just saw now, which is that you don't link anything in Illustrator, meaning everything is embedded inside the Illustrator design file, images, fonts, so it will open on any computer, whether it's at the print shop or for anyone you're sending the design file to. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope everyone benefited from the walkthrough. Thank you!